sir, if you could kindly. Anyway, as we load now into... Oh, we're in Gressvan. As we load into Gressvan over here at the top left-hand corner of the map, spawning over here in the top left-hand corner, we have the red Terran player coming out from the land of... gonna be representing clan... we have a mystery ahead of us, a faceless player, the masked Terran, come down here from... Who knows? Their legend grows. Nobody knows who they are. Where did you come from? Where will you go? Where did you come from?
Cotton Eye Joe.
That's what I'm calling. That's what we'll be calling our friend here, Cotton Eye Joe.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gressvan, we have the blue Terran player from Melbourne. Question mark, potentially.
Apparently.
The blue Terran representing Clan Exodus. It is Miro.
Ooh. Already not feeling super optimistic, as Melbourne, as I've recently learned, is not part of Best Australia.
What is part of Best Australia?
Pretty much just Perth. It's like Perth, and then it's a massive desert everywhere else.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Not
go.
as Fremantle.
And we do have some pretty interesting
No, I think
openers.
Fremantle is part of Perth, actually.
Okay. We have some pretty interesting openers. So our Barcode Terran player is going for a very economic opener, going for a Rax Expand with only a single Gas Geyser, something you don't see too often in a TvT matchup, especially because early on, like, Reaper Aggression is a lot more common, is much more commonplace, so very economic here from our Barcode. Meanwhile, Miro, going to be a little more aggressive, more in the face, going for that double gas opener instead, I imagine, for additional Reapers, I imagine for some more aggressive play early on.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled as Miro does opt for the double Reaper. Does opt for double Reapers coming out from this reactor, as Cotton Eye Joe, our red Terran player over here in the top left, is just, like you said, gonna be a little bit more vulnerable. They are getting 3 Marines. I mean, usually when we do see a Terran player go Marine first in this matchup, it's usually like 2 Marines and then a reactor, right?
Yeah, to get into those add-ons, to go for the add-on swap as well. So I am a little bit confused. We'll see where this leads us, as the natural base is about to be taken here from our red Terran. He's going into a second Rax. He's setting up for a 2-on-1 question mark.
Big question mark. In TvT? Without an add-on?
Yeah, that's the thing, is we have seen we have seen 2-on-1s in TvT before at the highest level of play. It has been a little bit popular over the past couple of months, but it's not done like this. Which is why, like, you saying that without add-ons is really important, because this does slow down the overall build here from our Barcode.
It definitely does. I tell you what, though, Miro has redeemed himself in my eyes, as we have a pseudo coffee build coming down.
Yeah,
not quite as many Hellions or Reapers, but you know, get some Hellions, some Reapers, and a Liberator on the way.
It's like it's not a coffee build. It's it's like a decaf build. You know, it's like
yeah.
I appreciate it. With the Reapers, Hellions, and now Liberator on the way. Again, there's a big delay on this Nexus, sorry, on this CC, so Miro will have the economic disadvantage.
Turret?
But we are rushing into that natural. We're looking for some economic damage.
And this natural is ripe for some damage. Already a couple of mules did get thrown down, and it's tempting to grab the mules on the natural base. In fact, I'm gonna be honest, I do that 90% of the time as well, but they are quite a bit more vulnerable to early game harass like this as well, which is why sometimes you do see Terra players just muling in the main base instead.
Yeah, exactly. We do see the Marines are being brought down to the low ground. At the same time, Liberator slips into the main. The turret not quite in position to deny it, and more damage is about to be done. So even though Miro has a later expansion, because of all the damage being done, he actually has a better economy.
So the eBay was to get early missile turrets?
He's a man after your own heart.
He's a man after my early heart.
He's after like 2017 Yaku.
The Liberator lives!
The Liberator does live, taking down all the Marines. 10 kills on this Liberator, 0 mining.
It's not in range.
0 economy here for our Barcode. As you mentioned, the turret cannot do anything against the Lib.
We don't have a Cyclone either.
Nah, we don't have a Cyclone. Yeah, he was going for tank
Barcode.
production. We don't have a reactor on the rack, so we don't have additional Marines. It looks like the Liberator will finally go down, but this is a disastrous start for our Red Terran. Again, their builds in general was a little bit quirky, was a little bit wonky, and as we saw, even some wasted resources. I assumed it was going to be a 2-1-1, but like an all-in with +1. But as you mentioned, I guess the eBay was just for these turrets, I guess.
I guess, yeah. Turrets which didn't actually do much in the end.
Yeah, they've just
building another one just in case.
Yeah, they've been hurting our Red Terran more than helping him. Meanwhile, across the map, Miro, he's up almost 10 workers, getting into his 3-1-1 setup. Very standard setup here from our Blue Terran player. Do have a 3rd CC on the way. So yeah, everything is looking pretty normal, pretty standard from Miro. It does feel like it's our Red Terran that's like really struggling to kind of like find their way and find their build.
Yeah, they're even throwing out a bunker right now because I think they recognize how behind they are. Mr. Barcode realizes, or Dr. Barcode realizes that they really need to turtle up.
He's a doctor now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You doubt Cotton Eye Joe?
I don't think he was ever a doctor, but maybe he was.
Oh, why do you think he came and went?
True. What? It's like my dad.
Was a doctor.
Came and went. As we are getting into our 3rd base. Before that happens, gonna be dive bombing the natural base. The tank is... Ooh, is it gonna go down?
It will just about go down.
Yeah, both tanks fall. Again, a really efficient trade, a really strong and powerful start here from Miro. Now, what I will say is that because it's TvT, there is potential for the game to slow down as we're getting a CC on location despite having a CC on the high ground.
Yeah, double expanding.
But why?
Because he's behind. Because they're behind.
No, like, okay, you can double expand, but this means that he has to take like his 4th as his 3rd.
Yeah. Because he's behind.
Okay. Yeah, we're just trying to get our bases up and running. Back at home, Miro is again looking pretty comfortable at this point. Getting up on 3 bases, just gonna be saturating gonna be getting them saturated, getting into their production. Again, everything here is looking as it should. We even have a 2nd starport on the way for, I imagine, Viking production here for that air control, for that air superiority.
It's gotta be with this somewhat earlier +1 ship weapons. Miro gonna be, or should be, investing heavily into Vikings. It would be insane to go into BCs at this stage of the game, you know, well still on 3 bases and whatnot. But you know, that earlier investment does mean that eventually, if the game goes on long enough, he can go for BCs. They're not as stupid as they used to be. They're not as stupid of a unit as they used to be.
VCs, they're pretty good nowadays. They're definitely pretty good. So we may end up in that direction. For the time being, though, drop is going to be shut down. We do see our Barcode Terran player in position, able to deflect the drop and hold on to their 3rd. Interesting, 3rd base is soon to be a planetary. So yeah, we do see maybe our Red Terran turtling up. Speaking of, Jesus, look at the Venn diagrams here from Miro.
Yeah. It's almost like the Olympic symbol. Or the Olympic emblem.
Yeah. We're going to Qatar? Is
France.
France? Is the Olympics in France next? Is that...
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you saying Qatar?
I don't.
From Avatar?
I said Qatar.
Qatar. Oh yeah, that was the last World Cup. Well, no, that's not true. The last World Cup was in Australia and New Zealand.
No, wait, it wasn't
the
in
Women's
New
World
Zealand.
Cup.
Oh, okay, there we go. I was like, oh my god. I got that much out of it. Fair enough. As we do see Miro pushing out again. Does have a
Spain, by the way.
Okay, does have a pretty large supply advantage, but if the tanks are in position, then we can defend. We can see that our Red Terran is going for mech. Oh, never mind. I assumed would be going for mech because we have vehicle attack on the way, but no, it's going into bio tank instead.
Yeah, just making the tanks a bit more effective. This is a very heavy investment, the Viking tank, though. So, like your light, I was very surprised. They're also getting a. Okay. So this is bio tank coming out from Barcode, but they have 2 Raxes, 3 factories, and 2 starports. So I question this. I really like the move from Barcode to sneak out that 3rd base into a planetary fortress as well, but yeah, unfortunately Miro is very, very vigilant, has been scouting, and yeah, was able to catch that base. Barcode is once again in a terrible economic position.
Yeah, they are being contained here to 3 bases, as you mentioned. They can't really sustain production here on all their buildings either. Not yet, not until they can get a 4th up and running. But yeah, as you mentioned, it does feel like our Red Terran player is again maybe a little bit newer to the game, as we have our production really spread out here. Go on.
Yeah. No, I think they are actually looking to transition to mech.
Yeah, so maybe initially it was...
Despite getting stim earlier on.
Yeah, so it's...
but that's +2!
Yaku, it's your turn for your brain to break here. You're like, everything you know about TvT, it's going out the window.
I have a new sensei.
Why?
I have so much to learn. Well, because if it's this confusing, it has to work.
True. So what we're getting at here is because of all this factory production, I mean, we should typically be heavily invested into a mech style, but we're still investing into like bio upgrades and bio in general here as well. So it's a little bit of a mishmash, a hybrid style out of our Red Terran. We'll see how it works here. Looking at the units tab, they do have a bit of a tank lead, which will help. They are looking to take their center base.
Well, you know, if this isn't mech, then you do hit a point of diminishing returns when it comes to tank count, right? Typically, I think the ideal, or theoretically the most efficient number of tanks that you want to get if you're playing bio is 6. Sometimes 8 if you're on a bigger, more widespread map, but... yeah, I mean, Barcode is on 9 and about to be on 11.
Yeah. That's a lot. As here we go, the Vikings are going to engage. Liberators go down instantly as Miro does have a Viking lead. Reinforcements are rocking up. Is able to siege up in a good enough position and does push back the Red Terran.
Yeah, really the power of the sensor towers. You really don't want to be underestimating those. A 4th one popped up, by the way, so yeah, we're getting a deeper Venn diagram. It's almost the Olympic symbol.
Yeah, as we are going to be pushing out, and yeah, the Olympics is on the horizon here as we do see the Red Terran pushing on forward. Gonna be a little bit late to siege.
Yeah, huge pickoff, sniping the Raven before it can really utilize any spell. Miro does get caught off guard a little bit by the mine, so he will be forced to regroup and take stock of his surroundings, but once he realizes that there aren't any Widow mines anymore, he will be free to rotate around.
Yeah, he's going to be
for a different position.
Yeah, he's going rotating over towards the center of the map instead. We do see that Red Terran not quite in the best position, but is going to be able to shell away at the Marines.
Yeah, it's power of the high ground. A couple of Miro's tanks are actually in position to attack that planetary fortress. The tanks of Barcode not quite here, but while they're targeting away at the planetary fortress, a couple of Marauders are able to sneak in, wipe out those tanks, and we even have a nuke.
We have nukes, as we have one here at the northern base. It looks like we have another nuke being set up here at the center base as well. And, oh god, they are going to be connected. The first one does connect. The second one, though, is it going to go off? Up!
There's no detection here. There's no detection here. There's no detection here. No scans, no Ravens, no nothing. The entire Miro line goes down. We're at 71 SCVs for Miro against 49 of Cotton Eye Barcode.
Yeah, as the Ghost is even, it got one tank and it may even get a second tank, but there it is. We do have a scan. Ghost is going to go down. but it more
That
than
ghost
paid
thought
for
it was
itself.
gonna make it out. That ghost thought it was gonna make it out of scan range.
Almost. As back at home, Miro, just working on more of these nukes, is setting up here with his central base and even the southern base as well. The economy has been looking pretty damn good for our blue Terran player. Actually throwing down 2 more starports, and you were talking about BCs. We have a fusion core on the way. This should be for Liberators, but if Miro wants to, if he has enough of a lead, he could try and get into BC production.
Yeah, I mean, those are tech labs on those starports. Yeah, I mean, it could still be for Ravens, right?
Sure.
But why would you get 2 tech labs instead of just 1 if you're going for Ravens?
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. What Miro decides to go for the time being, he's going for Liberators. Again, is what you should be doing once you have map
This
control.
one goes. Bypasses the entire mech army.
I'm sure it's tempting to try to nuke those siege tanks. I'm sure it's very tempting.
Yeah, I would have tried to do that and failed miserably, probably.
Yeah, so we have a nuke in the center of the map. It is on the way. So far, no reaction. Oh.
The nuke is gonna land! I appreciate the missile turret being thrown down. Too little too late, though.
Yeah, the turret itself is about to be nuked as well. Unfortunately, our red Terran can't quite keep up. The nuke is going to connect. At the same time, we do have the main armies that are going to be clashing as well. Mules were thrown down to help repair. Oh god, as we do see these tanks in a pretty good position.
Yeah, very, very good position. Without Liberators, there's really no way for Miro to break this yet.
Exactly, still waiting for those lives, and there it is. BCs are on the way.
You love to see it. I wonder how Miro will utilize this BC, actually, because there are actually a couple of ways you can use them at this point of the game. You can have them support your main army, help them deal with tanks, or another somewhat unorthodox but pretty effective way of utilizing them as well every now and then is to just warp them into the main base of your Terran opponent, force them to send supply back home while you gain ground with your main army.
Yeah, BCs, they can be very maneuverable, they can be very effective at going for these backstabs and forcing your opponent to be pulled out of position. There's a lot of potential, and for those wondering, late game TvT, like the end game composition that you want is BCs, is battle cruisers, and Miro is kind of like cutting some corners and rushing into that. We kind of skipped that Liberator phase of like tank Viking sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to contest that and say, well, actually, it's Sky Terran that you want, but
Yeah.
I think you might be right that BCs are kind of the endgame unit that you want as a Terran player. It's just that to transition to that point, most Terran players go into Vikings and Libs first.
Yeah, well, like at the highest level of play, just because the matchup is very dynamic and both armies are just constantly just repositioning and forcing each other to like back off, and there's the ebb and flow of TvT. Because it's so active, it can be really difficult to find time to actually get into BCs early on. But we can see that the Red Terran is kind of backing off and giving Miro a lot of time and a lot of space.
Yeah, enough time to get a 5th sensor turret. That's the Olympic symbol.
I like that we're
Uncanny.
leapfrogging forward with bases and with sensor towers. It's happening.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Speaking of slowly but surely, Barcode here has actually been able to catch back up when it comes to the worker count. The worker supplies are surprisingly even, and they're actually slightly ahead when it comes to the base count, so the economy isn't that great, because as we can see in the northern base, all of these SCVs will pull off mining because of a nuke, and they just haven't gone back to mine.
Yeah, that's something that we do have to be a little bit critical of here of Miro, is that despite being left alone and despite doing so much economic damage with these nukes, he has stopped SCV production. Miro, he hasn't actually made a worker.
70 is enough.
It's okay. It's not bad. But when you're, especially when you're,
greedier, though, I agree.
yeah, it could be a little bit greedier, given the fact that the Red Terran has just not really been too aggressive. He's posturing in the center, sure, but not so much on the fringe bases. As we do see a nuke on the army here of the Barcode. Uh-oh. No shot.
Love to see it, and everything is sieged up. The Ravens are coming in. And that is enough detection and enough range to deal with that ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm upset now.
As we do see the Barcode turn with 17 Vikings able to push on forward. He can take down the BCs.
Especially when the BCs are disabled. Yamato is way too late. The BCs will be going down. Barcode Joe is, gaining a lot of ground here.
Oh, at the same time, a big anti-armor missile on these Vikings. It looks like with that, it's going to be enough here for Miro to fight back, to hold the line, despite the Barcode Terran having such a massive Viking lead. Miro is able to hold, and that's what all the production is right now. Vikings from both players.
Pretty much, you know, Sky Terran battles, they are the final evolutionary stage of the TvT.
Yeah.
No matter if you're playing Bio, no matter if you're playing Mech.
Exactly. Like, tanks are important, don't get us wrong, but tanks mean nothing if you don't have air control. Air control is king in TvT. We're now getting into Neo Steel frames, high-sec auto tracking, 2 more starports on the way here for Miro, as they are just committing to that Sky Terran, as you were saying. Meanwhile, Barcode Terran taking a lot of bases, even taking that center base here towards the northern portion of the map as he pushes in.
Yeah, you know, we can say that Barcode has lost 67 SCVs throughout this entire game, but the macro's actually pretty good. You know, there's some questionable moves going for more factories instead of more barracks and stuff like that, but overall their worker count, their worker production, I should say, has been pretty good.
Yeah, but you know what? The Viking count is in shambles here. Miro, he wins the fight in the air, and the BCs, they clean up a lot of those tanks. We do see the Barcode Terran forced back in the end, and as you were saying, you know, once they actually got into the mid game, into the late game, the Red Terran has been able to actually macro quite well. Despite losing so many SCVs throughout the course of this game because of all these because of all these nukes, he has been able to just resaturate his bases as we have another nuke here towards the north.
Mixing up a mule and mixing up a nuke sounds disastrous. True. I don't ever want to be in that position where I mean to call down mules, and I actually nuke my own mineral line.
You may want to look at as we have another nuke here towards the south. You know what? We can have a look at something interesting as soon as this nuke finishes, because more SCVs are going to be going down here at that southern base. The entire mineral line goes down, and if you look at the unit slots tab, the Barcode Terran has lost 84 SCVs. Miro has lost 4.
That's more than I make in a game, and yet Barcode Terran is still keeping up.
Yeah.
Keeping up pretty well when it comes to the worker count.
Again, that's due to the fact that Miro hasn't been making workers for a while, and again, that is influencing things a little bit. But here we go. We do see the Barcode Terran pushing on and has rebuilt that Viking count as well. Looking at the unit tab here, we have a comparable Viking count, but we have 4 BCs for Miro.
Indeed, we do. A couple of good, well-placed Yamato cannons, or even an anti-turret, anti-armor missile can definitely turn the tables here for Miro. Immediately, as a couple of Vikings go down, they realize that they can't really push into this location. They will be backing off, regrouping with the rest of Mr. Barcode, Tommy.
And an interesting choice here from Dr. Barcode is that he is even making some Thors to support his army as well. But here come the Yamatos. They target down the Thors immediately.
Yeah, Miro knows that the Vikings are small potatoes in comparison.
Yeah.
The main anchor unit here of Cotton Barcode Joe are those Thors, and they have once again made more workers than Miro.
They have. You can also see that we have a really large mineral bank, but it's not about the minerals, it is about the gas income here for both Terran players. And yeah, it's not something that the Red Terran has a lot of right now, is trying to rebuild, trying to remax. Continued BCs are on the way for Miro. The Thors is an interesting idea. It's not a bad choice, but they're slow, they're clunky. As we saw, it takes 2 Yamatos to kill a Thor.
Yeah, I feel like usually when you're getting Thors in a TvT, it's because you know that, you know, you can't catch up with the Viking production, but that's not really true in this case.
Yeah.
Now Miro is starting to produce about as many Vikings as Barcode Joe. But Cotton Eye Joe, you know, they, for a while, but most of
his name
has been up in the Vikings.
Barcode Joe, Cotton Eye, Dr. Joe, what are you saying, Yaku? What are you
Yeah. Well, that's their name, you know, Cotton Joe.
He's a doctor.
Dr. Barcode, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's on their birth certificate.
Shaking my head. Let's see
Barcode Joe.
As here we go, the BCs are coming in big. Yamato's onto those Thors once again, and with the death of the Thors, that is the death of the Vikings. Miro just taking control of the skies. He's gonna snowball out of control.
Pretty much. I mean, there's just not enough Vikings at this point to really deal with these BCs.
Yeah, exactly. And typically you would go for pure Sky Terran as well to counteract these BCs, even if you don't go into BCs yourself. Vikings alongside Ravens can really help. We saw Disables coming into play earlier, and if we had continued Disables, then that could work wonders here. But alas, it's something that the Red Terran just hasn't been able to bring to the table.
More SCVs are going to go down, by the way.
Yeah, we have another
for Dr. Barcode here.
Mr. Joe.
Mr. Cotton, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the mules do fall here for Barcode Joe.
111 SCVs have died this game for our Barcode Terran.
That's more than I make in 3 games. That's more SCVs that I make throughout the course of 3 games.
And again, even though he's been losing, mate, we still have a pretty even worker count. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh god, we do see Miro. What's important is that he's just continuing to build up this BC count. After that fight towards the north, he didn't really lose too much of anything, and he's just remaxing, rebuilding. If we look here, he's only lost 3 BCs throughout this entire game. Despite all these fights, he is repairing, he is just getting them back up and running, and yeah, this is something that that Barcode Terran doesn't really have a good answer for right now.
Yeah, there's something that I honestly rarely see in a TvT, but we're at the point here for Miro anyway, where we've almost pretty much completely transitioned into Skytoss. There are 2 tanks and 1 ghost, and that's the extent of Miro's ground army. Everything else is just Vikings and BCs, which is where you want to be in the late game of as a late game Terran player. It doesn't happen often, right? But in this case, just because Miro has been given enough time, he has been able to transition.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's best case scenario, like we can see that the Barcode Terran is really trying to pull out all the stops. We have Thors, we have Widow Mines, and Vikings here. The Mines are not in position. The Thors are not a part of this fight either. They were slow to really push in, and now we are committing decent damage. 2 BCs go down, but I think only 2 will fall.
Yeah, the problem with Dr. I. Joe's army is that he wasn't fighting all together. He sent his Vikings in, and they kind of fell to the Vikings and BCs of Miro, and then the Thors rocked up, and they fell pretty quickly to the landed Vikings and the BCs.
Dr. Barcode Code. He's having a hard time holding on to these bases and contesting against this army. Does lose 2 of his CCs. We are down to only 2 battle cruisers now here from Miro. So, I mean, he's slowly whittling his way through that battle cruiser count, but we are actually transitioning into more Vikings, into even some Ravens here from Miro.
Yeah, and that's really the one thing that Miro is missing throughout when it comes to his unit compositions is these Ravens to add a little bit of extra utility, whether it's for disables, whether it's for anti-armor missile, or even throwing down a couple of auto turrets to not only add a little bit more DPS, but also maybe mess up the pathing a little bit for these massive Thors.
Yeah, exactly. And as we get into that, another nuke here on the left-hand side is going to take down another full mining base. Even more SCVs that do go down as Miro is getting ready for that final assault. I'm expecting those disables. Again, 1 disable for each Thor is all he really needs to do to shut this down. Actually, Red Terran going into Marine production.
I love it, you know? We were talking about how Sky Terran is the final stage of evolution here for the Terran player. What you may not know is that when you go beyond evolution, you want to go for mass Marines.
Yeah, and here we go. We have a massive anti-armor missile on the entire Marine army. The Vikings are landing. I do think that Barcode Terran is going to clean this up.
Like so. That's why you want to go for mass Marines when the game goes on long enough. You have a very, very quick, very elastic defense force. Marines in the ultra late game are a pretty good idea, but unfortunately for Dr. Bar Joe, You know, Miro has enough of an economy, has enough production to actually remake those BCs, and now it's even getting Banshees and upgraded Banshees to help deal with that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say that typically the reason why you don't see full Sky Terran is because tanks are quite necessary here to defend. We do have a nuke. The nuke does connect. No!
Not the worst case scenario here.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
Barcode,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But yeah, that's why we don't typically have just pure Sky Terran. Tanks do have their place, and if we did have even 5 tanks under the army, it doesn't just help against the Marines, it also helps against these Thors as well. So yeah, Miro punished a little bit for his army composition, but he's not going down without a fight as he teleports up and he takes down another mineral line.
He really isn't. This is a first for ever since the very start of this game. Miro has been the player with the better economy, but for the very first time, Joe Terran here is on a much lower worker count.
Oh mate, Joe Terran, yeah, he is now on a much lower worker count, 25 SCVs, and he cannot rebuild. Meanwhile, the Banshees come in big skin.
Yeah, all the Banshees will be wiped out. Miro's hoping that Terran Joe here wouldn't react quickly enough, but unfortunately, you know, Dr. Barcode, he ain't a doctor for no reason.
Exactly. He did study very hard for his doctorate, and that is going to come into play here when it comes to his army composition. When it comes to his push, he takes down the planetary. He's got quite a lot of momentum going his way. He is up in army supply, and Miro is up against the wall right now. Does have 5k minerals in the bank. Does have a lot of racks,
but no gas.
We're not making Marines. We could make an army. We could max out on Marines right now, but that's not where we're headed.
Yeah, honestly, I do think that Marines wouldn't be a terrible idea here for Miro. Again, he doesn't really have a lot of gas, but he does have a lot of lot of minerals, and there are no tanks on the ground.
Yeah, and there we go. 13 Marines are in production. Miro does recognize he can spend his money, but before that happens, the Red Terran Barcode is pushing through into the natural base, is looking to bust into that main base, looking to try to camp the production.
That tank put in so much work, actually, pretty much cutting that Marine count in half of Mr. Joe. As I don't really like this from Miro. He is kind of trickling in his Marines. He needs to consolidate them. He's got plenty of production, and here we go. The barracks are rallied into the main base. There is a safety tank here. Just in case. Miro just needs to consolidate his forces a little bit more. You know, Cotton Joe Terran is basically bankrupt.
Yeah, he's all in. At this point, the Red Terran player does have a lot of bases, but very few SCVs, very little mining is actually going on. What you see is what you get. He's pushing up into these tanks.
And this is the last thing you want to do. Honestly, even unsiege tanks trait very, very well against Thors. The Marines will finally go down, but there's nothing much else that Cotton Joe can do.
No.
The boys!
No.
Oh, they're not being pulled.
Yeah, they're being transferred over to some other mining bases, and they are going to be going down in the process. The worker counts are now evening up. The economy is looking very close here between the players, but we do catch some of these Thors.
Yeah, huge pickoffs. I mean, you were mentioning it. All he has is all he's got. Both of our players here, Miro and Cotton Eye Doctor, are down to sub 30 workers. Most of their bases are fully mined out as well. But Miro has a much larger mineral bank, and you know, while Joe does have a very large gas count, they've got basically zero minerals.
Yeah, Dr. Cotton Eye is just really having a hard time at just saturating these bases. He's morphing in a couple of orbitals for Mules. Both players are right now, actually. Mules are going to be the lifeblood for both players, as we have very, very sparse economies available here, but Miro has an army. That's what's important. Sure, both players have like around 30 workers. Miro has been able to spend his bank, rebuild with tanks, with Marines, with Liberators, and I don't think that the Red Terran can stop him.
Not at all. Nothing can stop the march of Marines when we get into this ultra late game. Miro doesn't even need to stim. There's no reason for him to stim, and he takes out the freshest base of Barcode Joe.
Man, he can keep going. He just rotate around and take down base after base. How will the Red Terran stop him? He's got Thors, he's got a couple of tanks, but with these Liberators and tanks of Miro, I don't know how we can really get close to this Terran army.
Yeah, even the extra range of the Liberators are zoning away to Thor's here. I've caught Night Terran.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, from here, I mean, we're not really protecting too much. We'll see if Miro rotates around towards the southern bases or just keeps on pushing up this ramp instead.
I had a flash of panic in my eyes like when I saw these barracks lifted. I thought, is he gonna float them to the corner of the map? But no, he is just repositioning.
Yeah. He's just repositioning here. He actually threw down a lot of Raxes earlier to get into that bio production. None of them have any add-ons. You do love to see it. Meanwhile, Miro is rotating around, isn't going to try to force his way up that ramp into all those tanks. That would be disastrous. Despite having an army supply lead, he could lose everything. So he's just going to head towards those southern bases instead. These barely mining bases of Barcode.
Very, very close. As yeah, he's basically down to one mining base at this point, and doesn't have a very formidable army in front of him.
Yeah, he's got 6 tanks, which is okay. Like, he can maybe take a fight, but here come those Liberators. Oh, they're a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, a couple of them will be taken out by the Vikings and the Thors, but at this point there's just way too much blue Terran. Dr. Ijo will be going down. Where did he come from? Where did he go?
GG, well played, and Miro will take that game. But what a wild TvT. We saw so many different facets of TvT. I do think that the early game was very shaky for the Red Terran. It left much to be desired, but in the mid game, things really got going for both players, and yeah, it was quite a game.
That's 5 hits of the GG button for every 3 aliases that our Barcode Terran had. Very well played. I'm guesstimating here. Very well played by Miro, and honestly by Dr. Barcode, Cotton, Joe, whoever they were.
Yeah.
I wish that at this point we could just rip the mask off and figure out who that is exactly that was playing. But
it was Yaku.
That it was. That's why we had the early eBay.
It makes sense. It does make sense.
I was asleep while I played. It's just like Fight Club.
GG. So yeah, really, really solid game there. Again, despite there's a lot to get into, but entertaining nonetheless. GG.
I like how the implication there, is that basically, when I'm sleepwalking, I actually make SCVs.
True. It makes sense.
Enough to lose over 100 of them. I didn't even check the resources lost tab at the end of there, but I'm pretty sure it was over 200 SCVs going down for our Barcode player.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised at all if that's the amount of workers that we lost. So, regardless, if you're look after your SCVs, everyone. Look after your SCVs. React to nukes. God damn it. I think every single nuke landed. I very rarely did a nuke ever not connect.
There was one that didn't.
Yeah.
There was one that didn't because the SCVs took out the surrounded the ghost. I think the ghost was out of energy, so it wasn't cloaked. But oh yeah, and then there was that one nuke that we thought was gonna land on the tanks, but it didn't.
True. Didn't quite. Regardless, GG, well played. Congratulations to Miro for taking that game, and we appreciate that you were able to share that replay with us as well. Was really good. Was really dynamic as well. Again, I do think that overall you had like a better idea, a better game plan coming into it, more well-defined kind of army compositions that you were going into. Going pure Sky Terran has its weaknesses, definitely, and if we didn't neglect tank production, then maybe we would have had a much more cleaner game. But regardless, you clutched it out. No talking to you, Yaku. No.
I just realized that.
Why would I be talking? What are you talking about? GG.
Well played. Good stuff. It was a TvT. It was a TvT on Gressvan that lasted almost 40 minutes, but was a very dynamic TvT with a lot of progression and a lot of changes. Very entertaining one as we tried to figure out what was going on with.
There you go. I do see. For sure. I see someone asking, does anyone ever send in losses or only W's?
I did, but then it never got casted.
We have gotten some losses before, but we put a stop to that. Kind of. So Sounder, he used to redeem some Dave Tester replays, and they were entertaining for what they were, but we put a stop to that because I don't know. I don't want to throw too much shade over it.
Too much clownery.
Yeah, it was a bit much, and I mean the VODs are out there if you're interested, but God, they were painful.
Yeah, that's why we have the rule now that I think you have to. If you redeem a replay, it has to be one that you actually played out.
Exactly. One of your
not on behalf of somebody else.
Exactly. But regardless, GG, well played, and yeah. With that, we're going to be heading off for the night. It's a bit of a longer broadcast today, 5 hours due to those replays. But thank you so much, Yaku, for joining me tonight and for sticking around for the replays.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
Hey, thank you. Meanwhile, Yaku, if people want to see you, if people want to find more of you, where can they find you?
Huddled up in a blanket, pretending I'm young again, and playing Wind Waker on an emulator. No, but twitch.tv/Yakuzaku1. I'll maybe stream again if I get an urge to play either the Crab Champions or Ladder, then I will stream it over there. Other than that, twitter.com @Empore Yakuzaku is where you can find me occasionally retweeting stuff. And an ! Discord in the chat is where you can find me, where you can find Light, where you can find pretty much everybody, really. Pretty much everybody who's stuck around this long is in the Discord server as well. So, you can ! Discord and join us there. Find me there as well. What about you, Light?
Yeah, you can find me at lat_VIP on Twitch and Twitter. If you want to follow either myself or Yaku, you can actually click on the Twitch title. I believe that our names are there. Actually, hold up, my mistake. Okay, now they are. Both of our names are part of the Twitch title, so you can find us through that, or you can manually look for ourselves on our Twitch channels. We do stream whenever we can, and I do stream some Zerg Ladder gameplay every now and then. I may stream some in an hour or two. I'm gonna go get some food. I'm gonna go take a bit of a break, but I may stream some Zerg Ladder gameplay if you're interested. Otherwise, thank you. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for your support. Follow us on the Cranky Ducklings all over the social medias. We are live every single day with plenty of StarCraft, and our next broadcast is going to be in 10 hours with ESL Open Cup Americas.
Indeed it will. ESL Open Cups, they just don't stop.
They don't stop. I think the European Cup is in a couple of hours, but we don't cast the European Cup just because it's very, very late, and our brains, they need some rest. They need some rest at times.
Yeah, especially after casting 3 viewer replays.
Mate, I almost forgot about that first Clown Fiesta with Frost. Okay, you just reminded me. Oh my god. Este Frost. Regardless, thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stick around. We're going to be giving another StarCraft streamer a bit of a raid, so you can stick around and give them some love, give them some support. Other than that, Yaku, do you have anything you want to say before we head off for the night?
I don't remember if I did.
Happy birthday.
Oh yeah! Nobody likes you when you're 23.
What are you talking about? So yeah, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. We'll be back in 10 hours with ESL Americas. Until then, hasta luego.
Bye.
Bye.
Hasta la vista.